Hi, I'm Lauren Bryant, twin mum, event host, and award-winning small business specialist with a background in automotive and finance. I'm coming up to 10 years of Empower House, where I've helped hundreds of women streamline and scale their business. The greatest thing I've built, though, is an incredible community through my events, the Brunch Club. In over 70 live events, I've created thousands of connections and raised tens of thousands of dollars for charity. Most of all, I created a no-pressure networking space for women to feel seen, heard, and supported. This podcast is an extension of that, where I can share what I've learned, bring amazing speakers to share their story, and keep living the Empower House values: community, empowerment, and education. If you are an ambitious woman in business, welcome. This is for you.
Christine Corcoran is the high-ticket sales strategist and business mindset master coach, the #1 best-selling author of Turn Imposter Syndrome into Your Superpower, an international speaker, podcast host, and the visionary behind the Next Level Mastermind, and the host of the Unstoppable Women event. Welcome, Christine. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It is my pleasure. Would you like to tell everybody a little bit about you and where you come from?
So how far back do you want to go? No, I'm just kidding. So I am based on the Gold Coast, and as a business mindset coach and high-ticket sales strategist, I work with women in business, mainly in the service-based space, to help support them to scale and grow their businesses, move through any mindset blocks that are preventing them from taking to the next level, and really love working in the sales element as well. Like, I thrive in the sales space because I come from sales. I was in corporate sales and business development for about 6.5 years prior to starting my business. And when I was in corporate, the reason why I pivoted into the mindset element was because I worked with a lot of business owners, and we were very much taught to give them the strategy to grow their businesses. And we had about 100 people on our roster at a time. And what I would find is that some business owners would take that strategy and run with it and do really well. And then others, I would find them next month and they're in the exact same place and they hadn't done anything. And I was like, why? Like, what's happening? And I thought it was me to begin with. I was like, it must be the way that I'm delivering the information. It must be my communication style. I must be able to do this better, which has always been my motto. And so I went and studied communication styles to begin with, and then I explored human behavior. Then I studied and found neuroscience, and became obsessed with coaching. That was when I was first introduced to coaching. Did not know it was a thing that you could make money from or that it was a career. And then I started to implement it into what I was doing within the corporate career, and they loved it. And they were like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. It's working. It's amazing. And then also, can you teach everyone else? And I was like, sure, because I was so passionate about it. And then with everything with corporate, everything took so long to implement. Were like, there, that's a great idea, but let's park that for 6 months. And I'm like, no, I don't want to park it for 6 months. And so I eventually just got to the point where I was like, actually, I feel like I'm stifled in my growth here. And so I really wanted to work with women that I really wanted to work with, that were really passionate about growing their businesses. And so I decided to build up my business alongside that. And then left my corporate job, and that was about 8.5 years ago now. And so since then, I've been evolving masterminds and retreats and events, and really working with women that are so ready for more, and they just find that they get in their own way. And I just love helping them break through any blocks, any hesitations, any fears, and then put all the strategy into place in order to scale.
Incredible. Did you find that you had some internal blocks yourself that you needed to break through in order to scale your business?
Oh, 1,000%. And there's always more. I think the business is actually the biggest personal development journey ever. And I heard it talked about this actually at an event the other night I went to, and one of the speakers was saying how the business is a mirror. Like, your business will mirror back to you all of your own fears, your doubts, your identity beliefs, and everything that's your insecurities. And I 100% believe that. When you look at the results in your business and you don't judge yourself, but you have self-compassion, you look back and be like, okay, but why is that happening? And what is it about my beliefs about myself that's creating that result in my reality? It really highlights things that you are holding yourself back with, or that you have belief systems that you just carried for a really long time. Like a big one for me was money. I had a real huge block around money, and I had to work through a lot of belief systems around money that I'd carried from my childhood. And so that was a huge breakthrough. And then ever since then, it's just been like identity belief after identity belief. Like it's literally like rebirths, deaths and rebirths every 6 months, every 12 months. Yeah, it can be crazy. I'm sure you see this as well.
I do. What did the early days of your business look like? What was the moment that you decided to focus on the high ticket sales rather than just sales as a general?
It actually happened organically, to be honest. Like I think it was because of corporate that I had that confidence in that space to begin with. But then the more and more clients that I took on board, I realized that my zone of genius was in helping support people that were selling a little bit more of a high ticket offering. And so when I say high ticket, it is basically anything that your ideal client will stop and pause and go, oh, is this the best investment for me? So usually that's above like $1,000, $1,500 in business, depending on your ideal client. Now, some ideal clients, they have a higher threshold when it comes to their income. And so they might be naturally from a household that is doing 300, 400K a year. And so their threshold, their high ticket will be much higher, right? So, but then the way that you determine it is like if you ask 5 of your ideal clients how much money they spend on groceries in a month, if your price point is higher than that, then it's usually high ticket, because the grocery money is like throwaway money. We get very comfortable and we adapt and we realize that it's something that we need to spend to live. And it's very comfortable for us because it's a regular thing for us to throw that type of money away. Not that we're throwing it away on food, but like that's what I mean. Like it's easy for us to spend. And so it's when the price point of your offering is higher than that, where people go, oh, and they stop and they pause and they consider the investment, they consider themselves with the investment, they consider the logic elements of what's included. And so it was through the evolution of just working with more and more clients that I was like, I prefer to work with the high ticket. I also am a big believer that when you have a high ticket in your business and your service business, you create so much more wealth within your business to be able to pay yourself a wage. It's less of a hard slog because especially in the early days, if you're selling low ticket, you have to sell to a lot of people to actually make any good money. And so when you're constantly selling, and if you're really learning sales to begin with as well, it's very disheartening because you feel knocked back a lot because that's what part of sales is. And so when you have a high ticket, for you to be able to at least survive in your business, for you to stay in business, you might only need to sell 3 times a month in order for you to be, making a reasonable amount of money to cover your bills. So then it's worthwhile continuing on in your business, right? Otherwise people just give up.
Yeah. And imagine servicing so many one-on-one clients and how exhausting that would be as a time and energy spend as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So you may as well be paid well for it. Yeah.
What is it that you feel like women in business struggle with the most in pricing their services properly? How do we fix that mindset?
I think one of the biggest things is we really put ourselves in the price point instead of considering it externally to ourselves. So a lot of women struggle with charging what they're worth because we already have worthiness blocks. So we doubt our worthiness, especially early stages of business. But then as we start to increase our prices as we go and we start to grow and scale, it's actually like, oh, am I worthy of charging that much? And so if we haven't built up the belief systems and also built up the evidence from your client testimonials and referrals and what the true value is of your service. If you have not unpacked that from your customer's point of view, not your own, you will always get stuck in underpricing. And so you need to do that work. And it is work because it is like literally having conversations with past clients and asking real questions. It is like, how did this affect your business? How did it affect your life? What results have you achieved since? How much money have you been able to make since? How many clients have you attracted since this work? Like getting the real nitty gritty from time, money, and energy. Those are the 3 ways that we determine value. When we unpack that from a customer's point of view, then you see that most likely your service offering is so much worth more than what you're actually charging. And if you also get triggered by other people charging more, it's worthwhile considering that maybe there's something going on there and we need to explore that.
Yes, the subconscious mind is an interesting place to be. And from everything that you say, that is one of the most important things about hitting that 6 figures and beyond is working on that subconscious mind. What are the tools that you're using in your mastermind and with your clients to break through those limiting beliefs?
Yeah. So one of the biggest areas I love to work on is money. And then we also work on sales because it's very connected to sales and the sales mindset element, right? So the tools that I use are I have a blend of different modalities that I've learned and studied over the years. So NLP is one of them, which is neuro-linguistic programming, which is actually change work. So it's transformational work where we rewire your limiting beliefs. So we unpack what those limiting beliefs are and then we rewire them. Excuse me. And I have other modalities like hypnosis, M-braining, human behavior tools. And so a bunch of different things that I use depending on what is called for in the session. We really just determine and personalize it to the client. And also, a normal level of coaching skills where we're literally unpacking of like where that belief came from and why do you believe that? And where did that, is the foundational belief yours? And maybe it's someone else's belief and you've just carried it on. What are you choosing to believe? What are you looking at within the world? What's building this proof to you that that's actually what the result is? And so when we start to poke holes in belief systems, sometimes it's just addressing it and bringing awareness to it and then poking holes in it, that sometimes that shifts it enough. But it's when we get into the deeper identity beliefs that we need to use more change work tools.
Right, for sure. Do you find that people sometimes are surrounded by the wrong circles and maybe need to upgrade the company that they keep in order to branch out of these things a bit further?
Yeah. Your environment has a huge impact on us subconsciously and behaviorally. So if you look at the 5 people that you spend the most time with, you will have very common similarities in regards to your behaviors. So, and mindsets as well, right? Because we also subconsciously want to surround ourselves with people who agree with us. And so even if that is like, well, things are hard and business is a struggle, you'll find people that have that belief system to back up that one. So then you keep yourself safe in your comfort zone, right? And so until you address those belief systems and then you address like, hey, who am I spending the most time with? And how am I expanding my horizons with what I believe is possible? And the interesting thing, like I've traveled to America to attend quite a few different events and I'm a part of different communities in different parts of the world. And every time I do that, it really just helps to expand my horizons for what I believe is possible and surround myself with people doing more and achieving more also challenges my belief systems from where I'm at right now. And if you don't do that, if you don't have that opportunity to compare or at least have conversations that spark new thoughts and new identities and new possibilities, we will continue just to stay the same because our subconscious mind and our brain works in the way to preserve energy, and it does that by following patterns. Just follows patterns and patterns and patterns, even if that pattern doesn't serve you. But it's up to us to then determine. And I've gone through so many different friend circles over the years, and I've kept friends, but it's like I've allowed myself to expand into different networks because if we just stay, and I'm sure everyone has an experience like this where they've maybe even had childhood friends or high school friends that they've stayed friends with, that maybe you shrink yourself to stay comfortable in that circle. And maybe you don't talk about business as much because they're not in business. Or maybe you don't talk about your wins or your celebrations because others are having a hard time, right? We end up shrinking ourselves to stay safe and comfortable in the circles that we surround ourselves with. And so at some point, we need to identify, like, is this actually serving me or is this keeping me small? And so I've intentionally worked to expand my network to create new neural pathways and to create new belief systems. Because when you have those conversations with expanders and change makers and people that are doing things at another level, you realize that your problems are not actual problems. You realize that you're thinking about things in a different way, or it even just opens up your capacity for what you believe is possible. And with those expansions become new possibilities. You can't have new thoughts and create new behaviors if you don't have the representation of it. So we are creatures of habit. We'll just stay exactly the way that we are based on our environment, the people we surround ourselves with. And it's not until you decide like, hey, I feel stifled here, or I feel like I'm open and ready for more, that you start looking for those expanders.
Yeah, definitely. And this is why we go to events, because
100%.
they're full of new people doing the same stuff.
Yeah, like and just hearing about new things and what people have been able to achieve, you're like, oh, if they've been able to do that, maybe it's possible for me. And that, I think, is one of the best expanders that you can create for yourself.
Yeah, I love what you say about representation and how much that matters. And on that note, I would love to hear about your Unstoppable Women event.
So the Unstoppable Women event was birthed out of a desire to create a space for women to feel comfortable and safe with their ambitions. I spend a lot of time, like I said, in America attending events. And what I love about Americans is they're so forthcoming with sharing with you what they're good at and why you should pay attention to what they're doing. And it's not in a boastful way. I think that a lot of Aussies judge Americans for being loud and boastful. But when you're in the right circles and you really look at, like, even on TV shows, I'm seeing it so much more now, they want to see you win. They really want to see you win and they want to help you win. And they're like, how can I help you win? And that's a completely different mindset than what we see here in Australia and New Zealand. And so, yes, there's plenty of people that do want to see us win. Like, I'm not saying that there isn't, but sometimes they're few and far between. And there is sometimes there's a underlying thing of like, yeah, I'll help you win, but what am I going to get out of it? And so it was birthed out of this desire of being in those environments and being like, we need this in Australia. And recognizing that we had a lot of tall poppy syndrome that was keeping us playing small, that was causing us to feel like it wasn't safe for us to expand and grow and be seen as successful. And we're worried about being teared down. And there's also the lack mindset. The lack mindset, because we are a small population and it feels like there's less opportunity. And even a great example of this is, I don't know if you've watched the American Sweethearts series on Netflix. It's about the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. Have you seen it?
No.
So good. If you watch it, watch it. But this season that they just put out, a girl from Perth actually got in as one of the cheerleaders, and they have like a rigorous like audition focus, and she got in. And one of the things that she said is she's like, I had to go for this because there's just not opportunities like this in Australia. And she wasn't wrong. Like, we don't have cheerleaders here, right? There's no big way of being on such a global scale, right? And then being on Netflix, like, oh my gosh, like that opportunity is insane. And so when you look at what's available to us as business owners here in Australia, we're very capped. Right? And it's capped in our mindsets. We're capped in opportunities. And so capped in population. And so it feeds this lack mindset that there's not enough to go around. There is plenty to go around, but we're so conditioned by this belief that there's not enough to go around. And so I wanted to create a space where people could see that there's plenty of opportunity, there's plenty of collaboration opportunities, there's plenty of clients, there's plenty of ways to feel encouraged and supported. And so the Unstoppable Women was born out of that desire. And I wanted to bring incredible speakers to share incredible next level successes that they've created, but create a space where they showed you how they did it and taught you how they did it so you can do it too. So it's high level speakers with high level business strategies, game-changing strategies to help you think differently. We're going to be talking this year about AI. I've got a beautiful AI speaker coming across from New Zealand. I've got someone coming across to teach you how to be surprisingly human in this AI world that we're living in as well, and to stand out from the crowd and be able to be successful. She's got a #1 ranking podcast and she goes viral pretty much every week. It's crazy. And then incredible Annalise McCarthy is coming to teach you how to use your voice and to be able to communicate with authority, because we need that in this world where authenticity is so incredibly important. But the reason why I chose Annalise was because one of the underlying things that I see about Americans is that they're, again, like I said before, they communicate so clearly with authority of like, this is what I've been able to do. This is the success that I've had. And again, from a place of, I want you to know so then you can know what questions to ask me so I can help you. Like, it's so openly reciprocal that I just love it. And I'm like, Annalise has this, and she has the ability to be like this. I want you to be able to start sharing with confidence and with authority so that people stand up and pay attention. And women really need this. We're very conditioned to play it safe, to stay quiet, and to not speak up. And we need to have this conditioning just broken through so we can start shining. And so, yeah, I'm so excited. It's a 2-day event, but you can choose to attend 1 day or 2 days. So if the day one is a full day of high-level speakers, curated networking opportunities, game-changing business strategies, and all business speakers. And we have all lunches included. It's a beautiful day. And then we have a VIP after party as well, if you'd like to come to that. And then day 2 is more of an implementation masterminding day. So I have a couple of the speakers also rejoining us for day 2. We're going deeper into what they're learning on day 1. So I'm so excited. Last year was such a vibe. I had the best time last year. And if you want to check it out, there's an Instagram page called unstoppablewomen.au and you'll see all about it there.
It looked like an incredible day last year. So that's very exciting. And you're on the Gold Coast this year.
Yeah, I decided to move it to the Gold Coast because last year we had so many people flying in from everywhere, like people flying in from all over the country. And I love Brisbane. Brisbane has been my hometown, but I also moved to the Gold Coast recently. And so I wanted to create more of a destination. And so even though the convention centre was great in Brisbane, I was like, if people are flying in for the week or the weekend, I'm like, why not do it a few steps away from the beach? So it's a beautiful location, and the QT hotel is such a vibe, that I'm like, it just really fits with the Unstoppable Women energy.
Yeah, it is fabulous. I'd love to talk about what happens inside a business owner's mind when they get into a room with other women who are steps ahead of them, which is what they're going to be doing at Unstoppable Women.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I've had this experience myself. Like when I flew to America to attend a bunch of events there, the first one, I had so much imposter syndrome. I was in absolute fear walking into the room thinking, oh my God, I don't belong here. Who am I to think I'm so dumb? Why did I fly this far? Like I had all the doubts and all the fears show up. I remember like picking up my name tag and had dry mouth and I couldn't even say my name out loud. I was literally like bumbling over my words. And I remember sitting in the room and the speaker actually asked, like, does anyone feel like they've got a bit of imposter syndrome right here? And I'm like, yeah. And everyone in the room put their hand up. I was like, what? Everyone? No, that can't be right. And she went around the room and asked a few people. And one of the people that put her hand up to share a little bit about how she was feeling, she was like, I don't belong here. I'm not successful enough. I don't make enough money. I am just a young girl and I came from here and this is my poor me story. Like she was telling all the reasons. She was basically like filling the list of reasons why she did not belong in that room. And I actually recognized her. I follow her online. And what I found was I was so blown away by the fact that she was telling me that she felt like she didn't belong because in my eyes, she was very successful. She was doing multi-seven figures, right? Crazy, has a massive following on social media, super confident. And I was just like, hang on a minute. If you don't think you belong here, I don't belong here. This is crazy. And just had these moments where I was like, that can't be real. And I sat there and I was like, I wish I could go over there and just give her a hug because it's actually bullshit. Like that's actually not true at all. But her brain was telling her that she didn't belong. And so I had moments throughout that day where I was like, I'm going to find proof that I belong here. And I had conversations with different people and added value and asked questions. And throughout the day, there were just these little moments where I was like, of course you belong here. And so what I would say to women that are walking into events, don't look for proof that you don't belong. Look for proof that you do belong. And you can add value in every room. You have expertise, you have experience, you have life experience, you have genuine care and compassion. You are probably generous with your time and energy and advice. Like allow yourself to just let that be enough. Let that be enough. And so there is always going to be people further along than you. And if you can learn to compare intelligently as well, rather than let it tear you down, we often compare from a place of discounting our own value. So we look at others and be like, oh, they're amazing because of this, and this. And then we don't actually acknowledge what we bring to the table. And so again, I'm actually going to be going through part of this on the day because we really do need to see our value in order to believe ourselves and to back ourselves. And so if you can learn to compare intelligently and be like, yes, acknowledge and celebrate that incredible human that you're looking up to and being like, wow, she is amazing. She does have incredible confidence and she is successful, amazing, which also means that that's available for me. If she can do it, I can do it. And I'm also going to learn from her. So I learned to compare intelligently by thinking, okay, what is it that she's doing well and what else do I bring to the table? What can I learn from her? And what can I see about the behaviors that she portrays in her business? Or, it could be just simple little things that she shows up and does that I could start to adopt for my life and my business, or just in the way that I'm having conversations. There's so much you can learn from others if you open yourself up to it, but often we don't. We just compare, we shut ourselves down, we play the victim, or we look at others and be like, it's not okay for me to have that. I'm not worthy of it, but she's worthy of it because of X, Y, Z. It's not true. It's just your brain causing you to play small and causing you to fear or doubt yourself. And so if you can learn to just rewire that part of the brain by just asking better questions, you'll find that you'll get so much more out of the events. And when I did that and I learned to go and walk into events and being like, instead of going in, well, what can I get? Or I don't belong here. I walked in going, what can I give? How can I serve? And how can I be connected? I just want to focus on connection. I'm not here to get anything. I'm just here to connect. And when I do that, everything always comes back tenfold and it's always better for the growth of my business because I'm not focused on it. I'm just focused on actually connecting with the person in front of me.
That's amazing. I was going to ask you, how do we network effectively in a bigger event where it's busy and there's lots of people and lots of noise without it feeling, forced, especially through some of the exercises we've traditionally gone through at a networking event.
Yeah, I can add to that because I have a whole
Yeah,
different take on that too.
beautiful.
So I love to network intentionally. So before you attend the event, and I'll be putting this in my emails as well before everyone shows up at Unstoppable Women, I want you to think about your goals 18 months to 2 years in advance. Where do you want to be in 2 years' time? What do you want your business to look like? What kind of results do you want to start experiencing? And I want you to ask yourself, what will you need in your business then? And who has that result already that you know of that possibly could be at the event? And who would you need to be connected to in order to have the representation that that's possible? Who would you need to be connected to that possibly has the connections you need to get there or the answers that you need to get there? Those people will be in the room. So if you're intentional with this, I would look at every single person that is attending, and we'll have a Facebook group that'll open up as well. That'll have everyone in there before the group, so then people can connect beforehand. And I would intentionally look at the list of people that are coming along and be like, cool, I'm going to connect with this person, and this person intentionally. I'm going to think also before I go of like, what can I give? How can I show up and add value? And I know as soon as I say that, if someone's listening, they're going to be like, oh, I don't have anything to add. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You've got to uncover that for yourself and think about it. It could be advice. It could be sharing resources. It could be sharing your best tip on what AI tool you're using. Like there's ways to add value, and you can absolutely, if you are opening yourself up to recognizing that lack doesn't exist unless you believe in it. If you allow yourself to go, well, by me lifting others up, I'm not taking away from anybody else and not taking away from my own success. So how can I give? How can I give? How can I serve? And you will more likely show up more intentionally at that event. So I'd prep ahead of time of what you would need. Think about what questions you would like to ask. If you were to be in the room with someone that you find out that they have that next level of success that you would like, what question would you like to ask them? It's a perfect opportunity. And I guarantee you this room will be the room to be able to do that. Because I know like sometimes as well, if you've been to events before, you're like, oh, I may have asked that question before, but I got shut down because people don't want to give their best stuff, or they want you to work with them first before they give you their best advice. That doesn't happen in my rooms. It just doesn't, because we're generous. We're here to lift each other up and support each other. And so I would plan ahead of time of like, okay, if I got that opportunity, what question would I love to ask?
That is incredible advice. And what about for those who, those kind of people that they want to be in the room, they desperately want to be there, and they also have social anxiety, like being in loud, busy places is really overwhelming. What do you say to those kind of people? How do you hold their hand?
So one way we do this is there's a checkbox that you can tick when you buy your ticket that asks if you want to be connected to someone else before you arrive. And so we do that intentionally. And so I'll usually reach out and have a conversation with you and figure out who would be the great person to connect with. I have so many of my clients that are coming along that I know really well, that I know that are super generous like that. So they'll be like, yeah, of course, I'll have a coffee with them before, or meet them out front and then walk in together. So we're going to do that. So they'll have someone to walk in and not feel so scared walking in. And then that way they get to meet others and connect without feeling like they have to walk in alone. And as well, there'll be spaces for you to be able to step out and take some time if you need to. And I think as well, like, I want you to bring into the room the energy of your next level self. So if you recognize that the social anxiety is holding you back and you would like to be more confident, or you would like to be able to feel more at ease in those circles, guess what we need to do? We need to do more of it. And so I would challenge you to set yourself up with really positive state and really positive energy before you walk in the room, because it will be high energy, but it also is not going to be super cringy. Like, I'm not going to force you to do something you don't want to do. I also am not going to ask you to do some really random ice-breaking thing where I don't know, like whatever. I don't do anything cringe. It's all genuine and just really kind and supportive and compassionate.
I love that. That's beautiful. There is a cost for people staying home. Do you want to talk about that for anybody who's sitting here debating about buying a ticket to Unstoppable Women?
Yeah. It's only a cost if you show up and don't connect and just sit there and think you're going to just listen from the speakers and then walk out, right? Be intentional. Think about what it is that you need for your business and be intentional and show up and ask for that. And think about those connections, because every single problem in my business, I guarantee you, is going to be solved in that room if you ask the right questions. And so I don't look at it as a cost. I look at it as an investment in my future. So I always see, and I'm sure you do this too, because you run events yourself. So you see this, like the people that you connect with in events, that level of proximity and the connections that you make is like a really powerful referral, right? That you can't get from a piece of content, right? You could share a piece of content and it's amazing, but I guarantee you the people that you meet in this room will support your next level in some way, shape or form, whether it's through a referral, whether it's just like saying, oh yeah, I know that person who could help you with this, right? It's the connections that you make. It's the connection through that connection. There are so many benefits that you can come from when you're intentional with the event. But if you show up and being like, I'm just going to show up and just going to listen and just walk away, that's costly, right? Whereas I'm investing in rooms that I know my ideal client is going to be in. I'm investing in rooms that I know that network is going to expand me, because the conversations that are going to happen in that room will be expansion conversations. We're not going to be repeating old bullshit that you've heard 20 times before. Every single speaker I vet and I go through exactly what they're going through with their presentation to ensure that it's new information, that it's not boring old stuff that you've heard 10 times before or ChatGPT regurgitating something. It's going to be real conversations, and it's designed to expand you in your identity of what you believe is possible, and designed to expand your business as well. So when you stay at home, and depending on the way that you grow your business, connection and networking should be at the top of your list if you're a woman, because we trust people we meet. And so when you connect on that deeper level in person, you're more likely to get more out of it. Now, I will also just put a little caveat or something extra here, because I have always attended events, right? And I've had clients of mine that attend events. And I remember attending an event with a client of mine. It wasn't my event, it was something else. And my client was there, and she only talked to other people she knew. And then she complained about the event to me about a week later. And I was like, what was your intention walking into that room? And she was like, oh, I don't know, just to learn. I was like, that's where you went wrong. And so I explained to her what I explained to you. And she's like, oh, I'd never thought about attending events like that before. And I was like, yeah, that's where it becomes a game changer. If you just talk to the people that you only know, you're not expanding anything. You're not expanding your mindset. You're not expanding. Yes, it's nice. It's great. Obviously, we want to catch up with people we know. That's amazing. But make it intentional, like action to be going, I'm going to meet someone I've never met before. When you do that, that's where the expansion starts to happen.
Yes, I love that. Well said. It's one of the things that I go across when I'm trying to tell people how to network properly, because like you say, I do hold the events, and it's just, you only have to have one really good conversation. You don't have to meet 30 people in the room. You don't have to meet 100 people in the room. You don't have time. No. So one amazing conversation with somebody that you don't know can be everything that you need from any event that you're going to. So yeah. Absolutely. And let's talk about after the event. How are we moving a casual chat, maybe while you're getting brunch or lunch or whatever's going on, into a high ticket client?
So I'm a big believer of taking sales slow. So I'm not someone, and I won't encourage this at the event. There's no business cards. There's no pitching to someone in the room. There's none of that. And there's different ways to sell subtly, which we were going to talk about. But I would look at, again, expanding that connection, because that's also the other way where events become costly, is we meet someone and then we do nothing about it. You leave the event and you're like, that was a really nice event, and I hope I see that person again, but nothing happens. So what you do afterwards makes a big difference. So whenever I fly into events, I actually spend an extra day or two on the either side of the event and make intentional connections. So I look at, if it's beforehand, I look at all the group of people that are attending. I usually go and follow everyone on socials and go and connect with them beforehand. If there's anyone there that I'm like, oh my gosh, she would be amazing to meet, I'll usually reach out beforehand and be like, hey, when are you arriving? I'm arriving, 2 days before. If anyone's free, want to catch up for a coffee, I'll usually post into the group as well and be like, I'm going to be at this cafe, la la la, if anyone wants to come along. So then you're extending the relationships, and you're already strengthening those relationships, and you're having more conversations that are more likely to then lead to conversations about what it is that you do. And so we want to think about that and be like, okay, how can we strengthen those relationships over time? And so then I will then as well, anyone that I meet at the event, again, when are you leaving? Let's catch up tomorrow. Let's go for a drink. What do you want to do? And so find ways to then reconnect around the event is also really helpful. And then I make a list. So I usually have my notes app with a list of people. I screenshot. If anyone shares their Instagram profile, I'll always hit follow, but then I screenshot them as well. So it's in my phone, or I take a selfie with them so that I remember their face, because sometimes, and I'll often jump into my notes app and write down what we talked about really quickly, because sometimes if you're meeting a whole bunch of people over a 2-day event, you forget. So yeah. I always go back to that list and be like, okay, who did I say I wanted to reconnect with? And then I'll send them a message a week later and then suggest either a coffee catch up or a Zoom chat, or if that feels too forward, like it depends on the conversation that we had. If that feels too forward, then I'll usually just follow along, send them a DM still and be like, so lovely to meet you. Would love to stay connected, etc., etc. And then I will then again go back and look at that list again, probably a month later, and just see if I can further show some love. So I'll jump on their socials and leave a comment or send them a DM and just see what they're working on at the moment and see if I can help. So I always like to just serve first. And then if they look like an ideal client and if they have the problem that I can help them solve, then we'll further that conversation. But I'm not pushing anything on anybody they don't need, right? So it's so incredibly important that we just respect the process and we only sell when it's called for.
Yeah. I am very against selling people shit they don't need.
100%.
Oh my God.
100%.
It's a great way to ruin your reputation.
It is.
Speaking of, how can we turn up to an event and use that to boost our personal brand?
Ooh,
What would you
I
do?
love this. So when you think about personal brand, right? Like you want to think about who are you and what do you want to be known for? So you want to weave that into whatever you're talking about at the event. So I would look at so when I attend events, like I'll go, who are the speakers that I want to connect with first and foremost? Maybe they could be guests on my podcast. So I think about that. I don't ask on the day, but I just make a connection intentionally because then I might follow up and ask them to be on my podcast. That I know through association is going to help build my personal brand. I also think about what content can I create, because what I love about events, like I actually did a reel for your last event, right? Because I just love it, but it's intentional in a way too, because I know that then the organizer, if they like it, they'll share it and it'll go out to their followers. So it expands your reach and visibility when you do that. And event organizers love it. Like I want to see the content you create, right? And people also want to be around others that attend events and that it look like they're getting out and about and having fun, and you're more interesting. Like your personal brand becomes more interesting when you are doing things, right? Like if you're like, I don't know what to post, go to an event. Share what you learned, share what you took away from it. And so I just really think about how can I then weave that back into what I want to be known for, and also maybe how I can add value. So I might take a piece of what the speaker has spoken on and then add to it. I really loved this. This is what she shared, et cetera, et cetera. This is also what I would think. And so I'm adding to, not tearing down, always adding to. And those that networking opportunity too of how you tag everybody in that reel, how you share how much you love the speaker. The speaker's also going to then love that you showed some extra love, and then they might connect you with someone. You just never know the ripple effect that happens from that. But I think when it comes to the personal brand, travel is one of the biggest values of my own. And so I know my ideal client also really values freedom. And so getting out and about and attending events like that is one way that I do that, and it feeds into my personal brand beautifully.
That's lovely. And I do love to see everybody's content after.
Yeah.
I love to see it when I don't get to the event too. It's so fun to go and follow along what other people are doing and who they're meeting and the things that they loved about these things. You're absolutely right. It's so much more interesting.
Yeah. And it sometimes feels like it depends on the event, but sometimes it feels like you're the only one recording content. But you know what I always love is this next level of different levels of personal brands, right? So give you an example. Erica Kramer spoke at my event last year, and she's the Queen of Confidence. Her content creation on the day was next level. And I was like, oh my God, I thought I was creating content. She's creating content, right? Every single opportunity she had her phone out, she's recording, she's talking to camera, she's interacting with people, she's getting photos with people that. She had so much content to share, right? And so you can turn one event into so much content that it just actually helps feed so much interest. And people, whenever I'm attending events or traveling, it's when my reach is the highest.
Yes.
My views always go up because people love to be obsessed with other people's lives. So we may as well give people what they want.
Yes. And then have an amazing strategy to get them into your actual ecosystem.
Exactly. So weave your lead magnet in between.
Yes. Perfect. And why should these business owners be viewing the live events as a growth strategy, not just something that's going to cost more money and time and energy?
It's really interesting because everyone views this really differently, right? So I feel like I look at it as part of my growth strategy for everything I've mentioned so far, right? Connection, network, learning. I always take away something from an event when I'm open. But when I'm closed, you don't take away as much, right? When you're there sitting and you're judging, like if you're actually sitting there open and be like, oh, why have I attracted this into my existence right now? Like there's something here that I need to be here for a reason. So how am I intentionally showing up and how can it actually benefit the growth of my business? When we learn that, and I'm always like, and I say this always, whenever someone joins a group of mine, I'll always say like, you can choose to be open and you can be passively learning, right? There's a big difference. And so I'm always like, take full responsibility for your own experience and for your own learning. If you need to ask the question, you ask the question. If you are listening to something and you're like, oh, I've heard this before, don't shut down. Ask yourself, okay, if I know it, am I actually embodying it? Have I implemented it? Am I doing it well? Because maybe you needed to hear that again and again and again until it's stuck in a really different way. And I'm a big believer too as well, like there'll be things that you've learned before, but then you're at a new level and you take it differently. And then you need to hear it in a different way in order for it to hit in a different way. So I think it's a big part of our growth strategy for all the reasons why I mentioned so far. But when you're intentional about it, that's where it becomes part of your growth strategy. So I love also events in all way, shape or form. So I could talk about it from the other side as well. So it's like attending events is all the things I've mentioned so far, but creating events is a really great sales strategy, right? So you got to think about, you get undivided attention from people. It is socially unacceptable to not pay attention to the speaker at an event, right? But on socials, you can scroll past. You just scroll, you just scroll, you just scroll. So socials is great, but when you actually create a space where you're bringing ideal clients who have ideally, because if they bought a ticket, they've basically put their hand up and said, I have that problem, I would like that solution. I'm interested in what it is that you're talking about. So they've shown interest in possibly your high ticket offering if it's themed correctly and there is a topic that aligns with that, right? So whether that event is a retreat, a conference, a workshop, a networking event, you can be really intentional with that. And I'm a big believer of women having some type of interaction, especially now as we're stepping into this next stage of growth with AI. It's pushing people offline. Like absolutely, people are like so done with socials because it's all the AI slop. And so it's either going to force us to be really effective with the way that we create content, which I think it will as well, and to become more authentic and to be able to show more vulnerability because AI can't replicate that. And then it's also going to push people in person. So you want to think for your business, how are you implementing some type of event strategy or connection strategy for your ideal clients to show up? So then you have their undivided attention where you then can support them and nurture them to the next stage of investing into your next stage.
I love that. People don't, I think, really get the value of starting an event and creating a community that doesn't just live online in an Instagram or whatever it is. When do you think people should start their own event?
Whenever they're ready. Whenever they, like now. Like
today.
Today. Because like you can start no matter what size audience you have. I started my events right at the beginning of my business. I started the Love What You Do collective and started with friends and family in that room. I did not have many ideal clients in that room and posted and got everyone in that room. It was a free event. Like I didn't charge for it. And so then I continued to build them and build them and build them before then I built that community. Last night I went to dinner with a bunch of my clients and friends in Brisbane and we were chatting and talking about like how long we've been in each other's circles. One of my clients who was sitting beside me, she was like, I think it's like 6 years. And I was like, really? And then another one, she had attended the Love What You Do collective events. Like they've all been in my world for years. Mm-hmm. Like that wouldn't have happened without some type of in-person experience. And so I always like to just build that into everything that I do. And I just think no matter what, you're going to always have the fears and doubts. You're going to think, oh my God, what if no one shows up? Oh my God, no one wants to listen to me talk, or no one's going to care about an event that I put on. You need to push through those fears and still do it. And you need to also do it consistently in order to prove to people that it's worthy of showing up for. Because, you know, there are plenty of events out there, but if you create one that's really unique and attracts the right people and you really think intentionally about what you want to create there, then it'll continue to attract more people. So I'm a big believer of like, go for it. And no matter how many bloody events there are, there's always going to be more, but you'll do it your unique way. And that's worthy of being created.
Yes, absolutely. What do you think people need to consider when they're putting their events together?
oh, how long do you have? I literally just ran two workshops. I've got one this actually this afternoon where detailing out all the different pieces when it comes to putting your own event on. And if anyone listens and they want replay, just send me a message. But I went through all different elements of like really understanding clear messaging. Like when it comes to events, I think one of the biggest things when selling events, the clear messaging piece needs to really hit home, because people get like, they love the creative side of it. I'm going to create this really cool name and it's really fluffy and it means nothing. And then the ideal client who's reading it, because attention span is so short, that if your event name doesn't tell me who it's for and what I'm going to get out of it in the first name, I'm scrolling on, right? So it's naming it is really incredibly important. Having structure, I feel, is really important too. And when you go to an event where there's no structure, I'm sure you've been to one before where the organizer is like, oh, look, we could just chat and do whatever. It kind of feels like, oh, what did I pay for then? Like, what am I coming for? So having some type of structure is really ideal. Really thinking about your point of difference. So choose a really clear ideal client of who you want in that room, and then get really clear on your unique point of difference. Because if you don't, it'll be very hard for you to differentiate in your marketing who it's for and why people should show up for it. And that's a huge part about filling the room. And then I also see this, and it really always gripes me every time I see it, and I'll share it because this is where people go wrong when it comes to their marketing, when it comes to events. They focus too much on the inclusions versus what the takeaways will be. So you've got to get really clear on, again, why should I, because your clients are asking, why should I show up for that? Why should I buy a ticket? And if you can't articulate that clearly, then people aren't going to do that. So forget about what the inclusions are. And what I mean by that is like, you get a coffee, you get a workbook, you get to hear a guest speaker, you get to network with other people. Everyone says that. Everyone. Every single event will have all of those things, right? But what's going to make your event different, and why should I care about those inclusions? If you can speak more to the takeaways, the actual tangible takeaways that people will have, they're more likely to be like, oh, I see the value in that. Now I'm going to book. Right? Yeah. So getting really clear on that and just really lean into your uniqueness. If you don't even know what that is yet, that's okay. But there'll be something like, I became super passionate about overcoming the tall poppy syndrome because of my experience with being in America. So, and obviously I've run events for years and I already understood the structure and the marketing, all of that goes with it. But that was enough of a driver for me to be like, I have to create this event on scale because we just don't have it anymore. Like, how many other events are like this? There's not many. Right? And you think about the scheme event, there's not many. Like if I was to ask you to name them, it's probably like 4. When you think about over the whole country, like, isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. I mean, these things are expensive. They do take like a lot of investment of time, of resources.
Maybe don't start with the goal of 100 people. Like maybe don't start there. It depends on the size of your audience. Like I guess I get that, but they can be very expensive. But there's ways to go about it of like really considering like how much you want to budget for it and what you're willing to invest in it for. Like my last year's event, my whole goal was it was a marketing exercise. I didn't care if I made money from it, and I didn't make money from the tickets. I didn't. No. But since then, it's helped build my profile. I've had clients come in for my high ticket offers because of that event. I've got new connections from that then eventually they led into becoming part of my programs. I've gotten paid speaking gigs from that. I've got other speaking gigs from it. Like it's built into so much more of what it's done for my business that it was absolutely worthwhile. I was willing to risk it. And so I think you just got to determine what's the purpose of your event and what you want it to do for you, because it probably won't be profitable in the first one. And you just got to get over that, right? You just got to get over it and do it anyway. And then go back to the drawing board. Like, how do I make it profitable? How do I consider my ticket prices? How do I factor in all the expenses? And one of the biggest things where we go wrong is that we want to make it super pretty and we waste our money on shit that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Get really clear on the purpose and the transformation of the event. Like, what is the actual transformation arc that you want to take clients on during the event? Get really clear on that. And if that's nailed, people will come back. Not because they had a pretty pen on the table that was branded, not because they had a beautiful photo wall when they walked in. Like, you don't have to have all of those pretty things. You can just have a really great event that makes people feel a certain way. And when they remember the event, they'll feel that, and that's what will make them come back.
Yes. Very well said. I couldn't agree more. We get a little bit caught up with what we see on Instagram and, you know, comparing yourself on your first event to somebody who's been doing it already for a decade is not helpful and feeds the imposter syndrome, especially when ticket sales are slow, because that can be really off-putting when you've launched this thing and it's coming and it's coming and people aren't booking at the speed that you thought. It can really hit in the ego.
Oh yeah, for sure. So it's where I often see people end up ghosting their marketing is because they don't learn to manage their mind. Because the mindset side is like the hardest part, like holding the vision for what you want the event to be when tickets aren't selling is like the hardest thing. But you have to remember that when someone's thinking about booking a ticket to an event, like a lot of my clients haven't booked yet for Unstoppable Women, but they're all telling me they're going to be there. Like they already know it's in their calendar. Like they're like, yeah, I'll see you then. Like it's not a question about whether they're attending. They just haven't booked yet because they're thinking it's still far out, right? And I'm like, just book your ticket, right? But
Yes.
it's often what happens is people get so disheartened by the fact that people haven't bought when they thought that they should have bought. And it's in those last couple of weeks where people actually buy. So if you give up on that last 2 weeks, and that's often what people do, they end up ghosting it and they think, oh my God, should I just cancel it? And then they just stop posting and they stop promoting it. And that's when the psychologically people are ready to buy. So you have to stay strong.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard, but it happens. It's so funny when you come across people going, "Oh yeah, I'll be there," and you're like, "Why? Why haven't you booked this yet?" And especially for yours as well, you've got a really interesting pricing strategy for your events. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so you want to think about like obviously there's with an event this size, there are certain payments that I have to make for the venue, right? At certain times. And it has to be paid before the event. So we need to consider like when do I need the influx of cash for those payments. And so I've tiered I've tiered the pricing for the event. So we had early birds and that closed by a certain date. Then we'll have the next tier, which is where we're at currently. And then that will get to a point where if you leave it too last minute, you will miss out on the current price point and the price will then go up to the next tier. And so it's mapped like that to also support urgency and scarcity, right? People, may not want to pay the next increase of price. So you've got to get in now if you want to keep it at this price point and you want to grab your ticket at the cheapest it will possibly be. I also have payment plans, right? So that it helps people pay it off so they can actually get the cheaper ticket and they just pay it off over time. And so there's options for everybody. But yeah, I think about the ticket strategy is also how it works within the budget of when I've got to pay installments.
So good. I love that. So it's just going to cost everybody more money if they delay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also, they may miss out on VIPs. VIPs are already 50% sold out. So if you want to stay for 2 days and you want to get the VIP price at what it is now, I'd say book ASAP because there's probably only 10 left.
That's amazing. Well done.
Yeah, thanks.
I love it. Thank you so much for today. I have some questions. You know what these are all about because you've come to the Brunch Club a few times. But what I've put together are these connection questions. They're icebreakers in a way. Anywho, I have 3 for you. So the first one is, you can choose to be instantly talented at anything. What is your new talent and why?
Oh my gosh. I love that question. I'd probably say dancing. I look at other dancers and I'm like, they look like they're so free, like so free. And it just feels like I would just love to have that talent to be I'm just going to go put on a song and just dance. Like, I know I can dance. Like, it's like, you don't have to be that, but I'd love to be like super talented because it looks amazing.
Yes, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Next one is, you are the new Oprah with your own show. Who is your first guest and why?
Oh, Oprah? Like she would be probably the first guest if I could choose anybody, for sure.
That's a good one. Hi, Oprah. I'm your replacement.
Yeah. Can I pick your brain for an hour?
Perfect. Why not?
Yeah, she'd probably be my first, and I reckon second would probably be Tony Robbins. He'd be super fascinating to interview.
Yeah. All right. Okay, last one. Would you rather go to the past and meet your ancestors or go to the future and meet your great-great-grandchildren?
Oh, I think I'd go the future. Yeah, cool. I think I'd go the future because, and I'm going to be like super lame here, because of the expansion and the possibilities that would happen from that, right? Because if I think about going to the past, I think about my ancestors in the past, there was a lot of lack. So there was, war. And like my grandma went through a war and they moved their family from Holland to Australia and went through really hard times. So I'm like, even though I would look at that and be like proud of their struggle and proud of what they were able to give me, But I think then going to the great-grandchildren, imagine meeting them, but also seeing like the expansion of the world and like seeing what's possible from their mindsets. Because if I think about everything that I've worked through, all the generational trauma, all the generational belief systems that I've worked through shifting, we're only going to be now birthing children without that stuff. So that would be amazing.
That's a pretty incredible thought. Is there anything else that you would want to share with us that we haven't already covered? Covered so much.
Yeah, we've covered so much. I would just say, the more you challenge yourself to attend events and believe that you're worthy of being there, believe that you belong there, and start allowing yourself to use it as an expansion tool, you'll just enjoy your business more. I feel like that's also one thing that I probably didn't mention today is the reason why events are a part of my strategy is because we need human connection. We need to feel connected to others. Even just that dinner last night, I feel so fulfilled and just so in my joy because of the conversations and the laughter and just being with someone, hugging people. I think that it's underrated, the human connection that we get from events. And when you do see people that you know and you connect with new people, and it just gives you super full heart feelings. So let events be a part of that, because that's why I attend events. It's to get out of my own office and leave the house.
Yes. That's why I started my event, because I wanted to get out of the house and meet people that I needed to meet that weren't in my typical circle.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yes. And for anybody wanting to connect with you, find tickets, all of that stuff, where can they find you?
So my full name is Christine Corcoran. You'll find me, my website is christinecorcoran.com.au, and I'm on all the socials under Christine Corcoran _coach. Feel free to send me a DM anywhere. I'm on all the platforms, so feel free to send me a DM. I'd love to hear what you took away from the episode. And if you have any questions about the event, feel free to reach out. The tickets to Unstoppable Women are at the website unstoppablewomen.au.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. That's amazing.
Thank you for having me. It's such great questions, Lauren. Honestly, It was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I hope you loved this episode. If you did, please remember to share it with somebody else who you think will enjoy it too. I would love it if you leave a review, which helps me reach more people just like you. And don't forget to come and join me on Instagram at empower.house. Thank you, darling.